And welcome, good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. Welcome and thank you for joining us today for today's discussion Bangladesh Election 2026 Democracy, Participation, and Inclusion. I'm Chris Blackburn, a friend of Bangladesh and the Communications Director of the European Bangladesh Forum. I've worked on human rights, democracy, and security in Bangladesh for over 20 years, and in my limited capacity, I have tried to campaign to help reduce violence at all levels of Bangladesh society. All political parties in Bangladesh need to keep disagreements in parliament and heated debates within the media, not fight pitched street battles, which can then lead to other acts of repression. Today we meet at a consequential moment for Bangladesh. The elections in Bangladesh have now taken place. A new political chapter has begun. But as is often the case in such moments, the holding of an election does not, in itself, resolve the deeper questions. It simply reframes them. The real test lies in what now follows. So questions of legitimacy, participation, and trust do not end at the ballot box. In many ways, that is where they begin. And today's discussion is not about rehearsing or rehashing the mechanics of an election, but about examining its meaning, its credibility, its inclusiveness, and its implications for the future of governance in Bangladesh. Because democracy is not a single event, it is a system of relationships between institutions and its citizens, between power and accountability, and ultimately between the state and the expectations of its people. Bangladesh is no stranger to complexity. It is a country of extraordinary resilience, especially today as we observe Genocide Day. So we have seen it has got economic success and it also has strategic importance for Europe. However, it is also navigating a period of political uncertainty, where the gap between formal democratic structures and public confidence in those structures remains a key challenge. And this is where the international dimension matters. Not as an external imposition, but as part of our shared framework of standards, expectations, and responsibilities. The credibility of democratic processes today is largely judged in isolation. It is shaped by observation, by comparison, especially of us in Europe, and by the consistency from which principles are applied. At the same time, we must also recognize that democracy cannot be reduced to procedure alone. Participation must be meaningful, inclusion must be real, and outcomes must command a level of trust that allows a system to function, not just formally, but effectively. So today we bring together voices from across Europe and Asia, policymakers, legislators, and advocates, each bringing a different perspective and what democratic legitimacy looks like in practice. Our aim is not simply to agree, but to examine, question, and better understand where Bangladesh stands today and where it may be heading in the future. Because ultimately, the question is not whether an election has taken place. The question is, has it strengthened the foundations of democracy? Or has it exposed the need to relook at and reshape things in Bangladesh? Unfortunately, yes, the elections I think went pretty well, but we've got a video coming up of some of the things that did go wrong. But this has been an exclusion election. There were two major themes. First, there was the deliberate repression and the exclusion of women, and the second was the disenfranchisement of millions who would normally vote for the banned Awami League. It's a difficult time for Bangladesh as it's in this sort of democratic transitionary period. And we also saw that Jamaat Shafiqur Rahman, the leader of the now official opposition in Bangladesh, is a man who went on Al Jazeera, one of the largest platforms in the world, and declared that women shouldn't have positions of power and that it wasn't part of Bangladesh's culture. A shocking statement from a party that has been criticized for being involved in a genocide and that has promoted radicalism. So let us begin with a short video from our hosts, the Global Center for Democratic Governance.
February 12th, 2026. Bangladesh held its 13th national parliamentary election, the first major vote since the dramatic changes of 2024. Alongside it ran a controversial national referendum on constitutional reforms. What was meant to mark a new democratic chapter quickly became mired in allegations of widespread fraud, violence, and manipulation. The Awami League, Bangladesh's oldest and largest political party, the one that led the nation to independence, was forcibly excluded from the contest. The political environment was so hostile and repressive that many other parties chose to boycott. This was never a truly participatory or inclusive election. Even more troubling, the yes/no referendum, intended to legitimize sweeping constitutional changes through the July Charter, was itself not conducted in accordance with the Constitution of Bangladesh. The Constitution does not contain any provision for holding a national referendum. Petitioners in the High Court have argued that the entire process bypassed Article 142, which requires a two-thirds majority in Parliament for any constitutional amendment. Instead, the government relied on an ordinance and the July National Charter Implementation Order 2025. Dozens of reforms, up to 47 separate proposals, were bundled into a single, unclear yes/no question, leaving voters without proper information or the chance to approve changes item by item. Legal experts say this violated the basic structure doctrine and core principles under Articles 7 and Part 10 of the Constitution. Multiple public interest writ petitions were filed immediately after February 12th. On March 3, 2026, the High Court issued a Rule Nisi, directing authorities to explain why the referendum ordinance and the implementation order should not be declared illegal and unconstitutional. The yes vote won with around 68%.
Chris, we cannot hear you.
Hi, sorry about that, everyone. I think we're having some technical difficulties. So I think what we'll do is we'll go straight to a speaker.
Yes, carry on.
Right. So first of all, we have Lucas Mandl, an MEP from Austria. Mr. Mandl has been a consistent and principled voice within the European Parliament on issues of democracy, the rule of law, and human rights, particularly in the European Union's external engagements. In the aftermath of Bangladesh's recent elections, his perspective on democratic standards, international engagement, and accountability is especially relevant as we assess both the process and its implications. Mr. Mandl, a warm welcome to you, and the floor is now yours.
Mr. Mandl, you can speak. Mr. Mandl. Can you hear me? Please check your microphone. Or we can go to the next speaker in the meantime.
Right, sorry about that, everyone. I think we're having a bit of technical problems today. So our next speaker is Laurent Vinci, an MEP from Romania. Mr. Vinci is widely recognized for his work on minority rights, cultural identity, and democratic representation within the European Union. He has been a leading advocate for ensuring that political systems reflect the diversity of societies they serve. In the context of Bangladesh's recent elections, where questions of representation and inclusion remain central to democratic legitimacy, his insights are particularly valuable. Mr. Vinci, welcome. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, and good evening to you all. Do you hear me? Because there were some sound issues. I had to restart several times, but I hope it works
I
now.
hope it's perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, can you
Yeah, it's very
hear me?
good. Yeah, I can hear you clearly. শোভন আমাদেরকে দেখাও আমাকে
Oh.
দেখে
Can somebody confirm if you hear me? Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So it is difficult to find the starting point of the discussion because you already mentioned several layers. Maybe I would start with my own personal experience with Bangladesh and this very special picture that comes to my mind. This metaphor that we heard from the one of the representatives of the students. Who said that on those chaotic days following the fall of the previous regime after the uprising, the police vanished from the streets, and in their place, the very students who led the uprising stepped into the busy, notoriously complex crossroads of Dhaka, and armed only with plastic whistles, the university students managed to open the gridlock. They enforced lane discipline, prioritized ambulances, helped the rickshaws, and did an incredible civility. Now, this is a story that impressed me, and this captures also the moment when traditional state power collapsed. That was after the uprising, but civic duty flourished. The traffic moved because the people decided it has to move. And for 18 months, we had the interim government led by Professor Muhammad Yunus. And he attempted to convert that volunteerism into institutional reform. And I believe in the most part, he succeeded. In a very complex situation, the solutions found by the interim government were good for the society. Now, nothing is perfect. Even in Europe, nothing is perfect. So under the given circumstances, the starting point to an institutional, political, constitutional renewal were there. And the last month's election and in parallel the referendum on the constitution, on the constitutional referendum was the moment when Bangladesh tried to hand the traffic whistles back to the newly constituted state. And now we need to look closely to the drivers. It is good for the stability of the democratic system when you have one party that is holding the majority. It offers political certainty. The fact that the BNP led by Tariq Rahman won with a two-thirds supermajority ensures this certainty, but it also gives a huge responsibility to the political party because the mandate is not only legislative, it's also executive, and in this case constituent in looking to the task to work on a new constitution. However, and you also touched this matter, it is a unique political reality in this cycle, the fact that Awami League was legally barred from participating, and we have a newly reconfigured landscape with a new opposition. An opposition that is not anymore between two secularist or nationalist parties, but a center-right majority and a robust religious conservative opposition with the Jamaat Islami, the 11-party alliance. We have also the novelty in the parliament, the presence of the students with the National Citizens Party. They secured 6 seats in a close electoral alliance with the Jamaat Islami. I am still of the opinion, but this can be, of course, debated whether when the students would have their own list and participated alone in the election, maybe they could have had a better result and be more independent in their voice and giving a more liberal political strength beyond those mandates. And yes, still there is the crisis of representation because the people who have been voted for the Awami League, we don't know exactly what they did. Some of them certainly were boycotting the elections. They didn't present themselves. And this point of systemic failure has to be addressed by the next election cycle. This will not be solved by its own, and it needs a very clear, regulation on whether the legality of the parties is still there. Now on the election, really shortly, I think all the opinions converge that the elections were competently managed. The newly constituted election commission demonstrated real logistical capacity. The election day was peaceful. People were able to vote, and the vote was undeniably clear. But of course, elections are never perfect, not even in EU member states. And we must make a clear distinction between a professionally managed election and a truly representative political field. And the legal absence of a major historical party is one part of the lacks that we can see. And the second is the fact that women and minorities are not represented properly in this parliament. It has been said many times. I might probably repeat it, but this is a systemic failure again that needs to be addressed. Now on the referendum challenge, because that was the election was only half of the story. Now the most complex task that the new government faces is the mandate to deliver through the July National Charter. And I'm telling you from the point of view of a member who works in constitutional affairs in the European Parliament, this is not an easy task, especially when you have a very complex plan, the 84-point constitutional reform package. We know the BNP was not fully behind the whole package, and even if they were, there are so many different elements to be addressed in different institutions that it is it's not a simple task. They need to rewrite the game and the rules of the game while they are also legislating in the parliament, normally running the country. And here probably I should speak about the geopolitical realignment and the challenges that Bangladesh is facing, because the domestic complexity is mirrored also in foreign policy, and we are witnessing a profound strategic recalibration in Dhaka as the new government moves to ensure Bangladesh is not overly reliant on one single external power that has been traditionally India. It remains a delicate relationship that will be ruled by pragmatism if everything goes well. And the new administration is navigating how to mend the fences and manage treaties like river access while respecting the very real skepticism of many regarding the Indian influence in the society and their support for the previous regime. Now, China, after a very significant engagement of Bangladesh during the interim period, we see a deliberate step back from deep strategic alignment with Beijing, and the focus is rightly on functional economic engagements while avoiding debt and vulnerabilities. Now, Myanmar is obviously one very important topic because beyond diplomacy, the conflict with Myanmar poses a severe security risk, and the burden of hosting over 1 million Rohingya refugees continues to strain the economy and the society in Bangladesh. And the international communities, I would say, must do more in supporting Bangladesh. The EU's role, just to sum up, is a partnership of equals. The geopolitical shift means the European Union must also adapt. We need more active structured partnership with Bangladesh. And as Bangladesh is approaching the least developed country status graduation, the EU should be ready to transit to the GCSP plus framework. And the targeted aid of EU must change from what we had so far. We want to provide highly targeted technical assistance to help Bangladesh to boost and to help the specific institutions that you voted for. And of course, through the EU's Global Gateway, we aim to offer Bangladesh transparent alternative for infrastructure financing, supporting economic resilience. To conclude, let me return to the crossroads of Dhaka. Today, those students who led the uprising and were present in the crossroads are no longer just on the streets. They are in the parliament, in civil society, and watching the constitutional drafting committees, as the whole society is closely watching what is happening. And I think their watch is a tempered optimism that can very quickly turn into dissatisfaction that can trigger then mass protests if nothing is happening in the right direction. On the contrary. Last month's election proved that the state machinery is capable, is somewhat stable, but the real challenge is honoring a constitution born from the courage. The European Parliament, just to mention ourselves as well, is ready to offer assistance to Bangladesh and share legislative experience with the new parliament, and just they need to ask our help to be able to provide. Thank you very much, and I'm open to question if any. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Mr. Vinci. Next, we're going to go to our next speaker, which is Tomáš Dehovský. He's a member of the European Parliament from the Czech Republic. He's known for strong engagement on issues of governance, transparency, and international oversight. He has been actively involved in election observation and accountability mechanisms, bringing practical experience to this discussion on electoral integrity. So, as we evaluate the conduct and credibility of Bangladesh's recent elections, his insight into observation standards and democratic safeguards will be especially important. The floor is now yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy that I can speak about election observation mission, where I was elected to the chair of this observation mission, and thanks to Mr. Vincent that he set many overviews about what we can do for the future and what was the current situation. From my point of view, it's very important that we me as a head of European Parliament delegation, I had it many meetings and many opportunity to speak much more with the people what were involved in the whole process in Bangladesh, and I had it long preparation. You know that I am also member of South Asia delegation and vice chair of South Asia delegation. Also, the issue about Bangladesh and the political situation in Bangladesh is one of my very important topic, and I have to say that this election were really credible, and they were competitive, and they were an important step forward. What does it mean? I think that it's mean that in this very important day and very important moment, we had it really not only we were not only observing the voting process, but we were discussing with the Bangladesh politicians about trust, about how the people give the voice, and how really involve the people in politics, what is for us main important issue, especially women's. Also, only about 4% of candidates were women, and it's very low number of participants. We spoke also about the topic of disinformation, because fake news spread quickly, but they can create the fear and confusion, and it's very important for us to fight against the fake news and against influence from the third countries. I think that really it's very important to have it also the minorities what are involved in election process and what are involved in the politics. Many people still feel that they are not fully represented in the parliament. Also, it's chance to something make positively for the next election. From my overview, the election commission worked very well. It was independent and transparent process, and election day was mostly calm and very well organized. Polling staff did a very good job, and most important, the people from Bangladesh shows the strong interest in the democracy. We saw in Bangladesh energy, we saw an engagement, we saw people what are taking care about their own country, and what really came from many countries abroad only for election process and participate in election. Also, it was quite important to see how many people from Europe, from the Dubai or from Emirates and other Qatar came only for voting this voting day. For me, it was also very important to have it open dialogue with leading parties and with the leaders of the parties. I'm very happy that they were very open to us, and we found the way how to manage election and how to manage the time after the election, because you know that every time the biggest problems are emotion. Someone is losing, someone is winning, and then is the time for establish stable government, and it's very important, so important also as a election process as well. Also, for us, it's very important to continuation with reform, that the institution will stay independent, and political leaders have it huge responsibility to really give the people to hope to stay, and also to pay taxes, because it's the crucial issue. You have it in Bangladesh, very young population, but the state is sometimes fail in many issues, and we need to improve the quality of the governments. For me, the very important things have it solved the problem through the law and dialogue. There is also the bigger picture that democracy today is under the pressure everywhere. Also, what we discussed with Bangladeshi politicians was to fight against disinformation, because it can spread the democracy, the prevent from the conflict. Also, the conflicts on the political level doesn't mean that we will divide the society, and it will start fight between the communities and between the supporters of the party. And I think it's very important heavy trust, prevent corruption, really have it governments what is taking care about the people and wants really, what I said many times, make Bangladesh great again. I know that everyone was laughing when I used these phrases, but it's very important, especially for the future, that people will trust the Bangladeshi democracy and Bangladeshi authorities. As a member of European Parliament, as Mr. Vince mentioned, we are really prepared to help. We headed the biggest mission, around 300 people, included the teams from the Switzerland, from the Norway, and from the Canada, what were included in our observation mission, the cooperation with Commonwealth and with International Republicans Institute and other organizations that were observing the election were really brilliant. I have to say that we exchange a lot of information, and for the future we would like all together support the democratic institutions, and we would like to support fair and transparent election. This is for us the key issue: fair and transparent election. It's mean that really these 4 years we would like to have it open dialogue with all authorities, how to manage it for the future, that there will be not complaint about fairness the election. Because a stable Bangladesh is important, and not only for this country but for whole region. Let me finish with the simple message: democracy takes time, also step by step, and the elections are first steps. We have to continue, and we have really work together on improvement all the skills of the people, and give it to Bangladesh the hope. And this is what was our role on observation mission. Now I speak a little bit much more politicians. For me, Bangladeshi peoples are like our brothers and sisters. I felt really very good atmosphere in Bangladesh, and for us it's very, very important, as for European Parliament, continuation, this very frank and very open process. And we are prepared not only send the money, but especially you need to send our experts. Also, our experts, team of experts, are prepared to help Bangladesh improve all the skills what they needed to be tiger from the South Asia, what will really show us how to manage the things and how really improve the state to better condition for the life and for the people. I will end here. Thank you very much for this very good opportunity to exchange with you our views. And I have to say that it was every time's my honor to speak with Bangladeshi people, and I'm proud that I was the chair of the European Parliament mission.
Thank you for that, Thomas Dahovsky. It's excellent summation of what you saw in Bangladesh. My next speaker will be, and it's a pleasure for her to join us. The only woman on the panel. So it's Senator Dr. Ras Adiba Ratsi from Malaysia. She's a highly respected public figure and a powerful advocate for inclusive governance, disability rights, and social equity. Her work reflects a lifelong commitment to ensuring that democratic systems serve all citizens, particularly those often underrepresented. As we reflect on the recent elections in Bangladesh, her perspective reminds us that democracy must be measured not only by outcomes, but by participation, dignity, and inclusion. Senator Ratsby, we are delighted to have you with us today. The floor is now yours.
Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. Assalamualaikum from Kuala Lumpur. It's Ideal Fitri here. So, and it's also very almost midnight in Kuala Lumpur. I'm just going to go straight to, sharing what we all have seen and experienced in Bangladesh. Today we gathered to reflect on a significant moment in the democratic journey of Bangladesh, the 13th elections on February 12, 2026. This election was not just a routine political exercise, it was a watershed moment, and I'm sure you all agree with me, the first national vote since the historic July uprising of 2024. For the people of Bangladesh, it represented hope, a day of liberation, and an opportunity to shape a new future for their nation. I had the distinct privilege of observing this historic event as part of the Commonwealth Observer Group. It was truly an honor to serve alongside a team of distinguished experts led by our former president of Ghana, Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, and to represent Malaysia in this important international mission. And I actually am also privileged to be able to meet some of all of you international observers there. So it has been an honor. We witnessed an electoral environment that was largely orderly. Polling stations opened on time, security personnel were well coordinated, and the voting procedures were implemented professionally. While there were isolated incidents, as is common in large scale elections, they did not affect the overall conduct of the vote in a systemic manner. We particularly commend the Bangladesh Election Commission, the law enforcement agencies, and the interim government. They worked diligently to ensure an environment conducive to voting across the country, allowing tens of millions of citizens to cast their ballots. As our chairperson noted, the people of Bangladesh exercised their democratic rights in pursuit of the fulfillment of their aspirations. Now, one of the most striking features of this election, I must say, was the enthusiasm of the Bangladeshi people, and I'm sure all of you who was there on the ground with me would agree to that. It was actually like Ideal Fitri. Everybody was all dressed, all excited, having tea, bringing sandwiches, and everyone was coming together. It was just amazing to see so much energy. And despite predictions of apathy. We saw long queues of voters waiting patiently before polling stations even opened. The atmosphere were described by many locals as festive, as I mentioned, with voters expressing excitement that their votes would finally matter after years, after years of political uncertainty. Now, with approximately 128 million eligible voters and a reported turnout of around 59.4%, the participation was robust. The Commonwealth Group noted that relevant voter information was clearly displayed and that separate queues for men and women helped facilitate efficient queue management. This was a testament to the civic awareness of the Bangladeshi populace and their commitment to shaping their nation's destiny. While we celebrate the peaceful conduct of the polls, our duty as observers also compels us to highlight areas for improvement, particularly in the realm of inclusion. This was a central theme of our observation. We saw progress. Officials assisted elderly voters and persons with disabilities, including myself, because I'm a wheelchair user, and I literally had to tell people it's okay, I can manage. They were just wanting to help. They were so big-hearted, and we noted the visible participation of women, not just as voters but also as polling officials and also security personnel. The extension of postal ballots to overseas voters and inmates was also a laudable step towards expanding enfranchisement. However, we must also address the gaps. Women's representation, despite the high turnout of women voters, their political representation remains alarmingly low. Women made up only 4% of candidates and only 7 women were elected to parliament. This is a concern, especially given that women were at the forefront of the 2024 uprising that led to this democratic transition. We recommended that measures be taken to address structural barriers and challenges such as online harassment, which the UN also noted as a significant threat to women in public life. Youth engagement. Now, the energy of the youth was undeniable. They were the architects of the 2024 uprising, yet their formal inclusion in political structures remains limited. We acknowledge their visible role in political mobilization, but suggested that greater institutional inclusion is needed to strengthen democratic participation. Now, touching on accessibility, while assistance was provided, many polling stations remained inaccessible for persons with disabilities, particularly those located on upper floors without ramps or lifts. This is an area that requires urgent attention to ensure truly universal suffrage. I actually observed that it was for them to vote they had to go on the first floor, and I asked why is it that we are unable to bring them down, and they said it's used that they're used to that. So I think that's something they would would have to work on in the future. But all in all, in conclusion, the 2026 Bangladesh election marked a critical step in the country's democratic transition. The Commonwealth Observer Group, including myself, witnessed a process that was largely peaceful, transparent, and competitive, a significant improvement compared to previous cycles. Yet, democracy is a journey, and I'm sure you all agree to that. It's not a destination, it's a journey. The true test lies in what happens next. It is now incumbent upon the new government and the Election Commission to act on the recommendations put forward by the international community, particularly regarding the inclusion of women, youth, and marginalized communities. As the Commonwealth finalizes its full report, we remain hopeful that the spirit of liberation and enthusiasm we witnessed on election day will translate into sustained efforts to build a more inclusive and resilient democracy for all Bangladeshis. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for that, Senator Ratzi. And I think we all here want Bangladesh to do well in the future and to have a safe and inclusive politics. It's sadly, I always say there's the only people that care about human rights are the opposition in Bangladesh, and unfortunately, as we've seen things like that happen. But I think what we saw was a pretty fair election, but on the inclusivity mark, there are still questions, and how Bangladesh moves forward with an opposition that believes that women don't belong a place in Bangladesh. Will obviously that's for Bangladesh to decide, but as observers, I think we can all be quite cautious about
Slowly
that.
but surely.
Yeah, but on to my last speaker, and obviously the keynote speaker here. So I'm going to welcome Professor Dr. Mohammed Habib Malat. Professor Malat is the president of the Global Center for Democratic Governance and a distinguished academic and policymaker with extensive experience in governance in Bangladesh. As Bangladesh enters a new chapter following its recent elections, his insights on institutional resilience, electoral integrity, and the path ahead for democratic governance are especially timely. Professor Milat, it is an honor for you to have this conversation here today, and thank you for giving the concluding remarks. The floor is now yours, Dr. Milat.
Thank you very much, Chris. Distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, and all participants. At the outset, I extend my sincere greetings to all on behalf of Global Center for Democratic Governance, Canada. I would like to express my deepest appreciation to our distinguished panel speaker, Mr. Lucas Mendel, MEP, Mr. Lawrence Vinci, MEP, and Mr. Thomas Dubowski, MEP, and Honorable Senator Datuk Dr. Ras Adiba Razdi for their valuable presence and contribution. I'd also like to convey my sincere thanks to moderator Mr. Christopher Blackburn, Director of the European Bangladesh Strategy Dialogue, UK, for guiding today's discussion. In addition, I extend my gratitude to those who have prepared the video presentation and to all members of the Global Center of Democratic Governance for their continued dedication and efforts in organizing this important seminar. Distinguished participants, today is 25th of March 2026, mark a solemn and historic moment. 55 years ago, on this very day, the Pakistani military forces, along with their local collaborators, Rajakar, Al-Badr, Al-Sams, and Jamaat-e-Islami, launched a brutal campaign on atrocity against civilians in Bangladesh. The violence displaced nearly 10 million people, forcing them to seek refuge into the neighboring countries, mainly in India. The cost of independence was immense. 3 million lives was lost, and the dignity of hundreds of thousands of women violated. Through this profound sacrifice, Bangladesh emerged as an independent nation on 16 December 1971. Yet, even after more than 5 decades, the atrocity committed during that period have not received formal international recognition as genocide. We therefore reiterate our call for recognizing of Bangladesh genocide. On this solemn day, we pay our deepest respect to the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, and all martyrs who sacrificed their lives for our freedom. Distinguished participants, in the 55 years since independence, Bangladesh has faced persistent challenges in establishing a fully inclusive and sustainable democratic system. Repeated disruption, whether through military rule or undemocratic governance, have hindered the institutionalization of democratic value and practices. In recent development, particularly during the 18 months of interim government, serious concern has emerged regarding the state of human rights and the rule of law in Bangladesh. Reports indicate that hundreds of people have been lost their lives in incidents of violence. Homes have been looted, destroyed, set on fire, creating an atmosphere of fear and insecurity. More than 480 police stations have reported been attacked, vandalized, looted, and in many cases, set ablaze. Members of law enforcement agency, including police personnel, have been targeted and killed. It is further reported that those responsible for killing, arson, looting, and vandalism have in certain instances have been granted indemnity. Such measure poses serious obstacle to good governance and the rule of law and risk of encouraging further impunity by signaling the grave violation may go unpunished. At the same time, repression has extended across multiple sectors of the society. Media institutions and journalists have faced intimidation, censorship, and attacks. Cultural activists have also been subjected to harassment and suppression. Professionals from various fields have experienced pressure and persecution. Particularly concerned the impact on the younger generation. Approximately 200,000 students have reportedly forced disruption their education due to alleged political affiliation, significantly affecting their academic futures and opportunities. Furthermore, there has been a notable increase in violence against minorities, women, and children, raising serious human rights concerns. Efforts to undermine the historical legacy of liberation war have been observed, the risk eroding foundation value of the nation. Economic challenges has further compounded the situation, affecting livelihood and increasing public hardship. At the same time, thousands of political activists have been reportedly detained, cases widely perceived as politically motivated. Many have been denied to access to bail, raising serious concern about due process and independence of judiciary. Moreover, the recent electoral process has faced significant criticism. An unconstitutional referendum, coupled with the exclusion of major political actors, including the largest political party, from meaningful participation, has resulted in a process that cannot be considered inclusive and representative. Several political parties were unable to participate due to absence of conducive electoral environment. Consequently, the credibility and inclusiveness of the election have been widely questioned. Such development risk weakening the democratic institution and creating conditions that may foster instability and extremism. Distinguished colleagues, we envision a Bangladesh that is democratic, secular, and grounded in social justice, where civil citizens, regardless of religion, ethnicity, and political affiliation, enjoy equal rights and dignity. We call for restoration of democratic environment where all political parties can exercise their legitimate right freely and fairly. We emphasize the importance of justice and accountability, ensuring that perpetrators of the crimes are held responsible through legal process. At the same time, we strongly oppose the misuse of legal system for the political retaliation, including prolonged detention without bail in politically motivated cases. We further stress importance of protecting freedom of expression, safeguarding media independence, and ensuring that student, professional, civil society actors can operate without fear or coercion. Truly inclusive democracy requires more than election. It requires participation, pluralism, transparency, and respect for fundamental freedoms. Institutions must be accountable and responsible to the will of the people. The future of Bangladesh depends on our collective commitment to democratic principles, human rights, and rule of law. Let us work together to promote dialogue, inclusivity, and justice so that Bangladesh can move forward as a nation that reflects the aspiration of all people. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Malat, and thank you to our guests. I think probably I would want to end on one sort of question to you three. Obviously, the European Union and other states, like in Malaysia, have a good relationship, especially, and the Japanese do have a really special relationship with Bangladesh. We've seen, like, over the last 20 years, we've seen sort of politics become so dysfunctional, where we've almost had warring parties, and it has literally led to bloodshed. What do you hope for going forward? What is the main hope? Do you think that Bangladesh can finally come to some sort of conclusion with the ghosts of the past, Obviously, we know it's genocide day to day, but then we know Jamaat-e-Islami, who was instrumental in that genocide, has been rehabilitated back to the main sort of opposition in Bangladesh. And what does that say for the resilience? Does it mean that Bangladeshis have forgiven Jamaat? So what is your main hope for the future? How do you think that? Do you think it's going to be mainly economic sort of success that'll drive sort of a reconciliation with society? So the question over to you first, Senator Ratzi. What would your main hope be?
Thank you. I think the most important thing right now is for us to look on the economic side of things. With all due respect to the religion, I think it is about time that we allow the people of Bangladesh to be able to work, to be able to come out, especially the women, not being worried about their safety. One is of education, one is of their rights, and then, of course, being able to help generate the country's economy. I think that's very, very vital right here. Religion, of course, is of the utmost. But I feel that once we, look into the economic side of things, we somewhat will be able to see a more robust and more improved Bangladesh. I think that's what the people want right now. They have been deprived of that for yongs for a very long time. This is my take on it. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And to Thomas, the same question to you. And what do you think are the way forward is, and how can Europe help?
I think that there is many things what we can do together. First is really have it open dialogue about the reform, because the people, especially when we were in Bangladesh, they were speaking about economic conditions, about poverty, about the security, about the situation in the hospitals and social care and other things, and they need to change many things. Second things what we are offering, we are offering not money as a part of slavering process what offer another country, especially what we see in Africa, but we offer the money and cooperation, how to improve the skills of the people. What does it mean? What does it mean robotization in the Bangladeshi context? How really improve quality of life the people in the rural area. Also, this is for us main important questions what we are now prepared to solve it. And especially we have it there a lot of projects in Bangladesh, and now is the ball on the Bangladeshi side to tell us what they need and where they want to cooperate. We totally understand that they have to really have it very good relationship with the neighborhood. But Europe also, as one of the biggest partner, is prepared to help, and we are there in the position of real friends. We are not pushing for nothing. We are not. We are only looking forward what we can do together and what's really makes sense for the both sides, and what can be win-win situation for Bangladesh and EU also. Also, this is key things what I would like to repeat it here, what I see for the future as a vice chair of the South Asia delegation and as a real friend of Bangladesh.
Excellent, thank you for that. I agree. I think the sort of European expertise in Bangladesh and friends of Bangladesh, and it's not just European, it's the North Americans and obviously Southeast Asia, like in Malaysia. A lot of countries can help Bangladesh, and a lot of countries do see the fantastic sort of progress Bangladesh has made in the last sort of 20 years. Yes, it's still got challenges, but it's trying to move forward, and we've got to keep them moving forward all the time. So thank you for that. So the question, Dr. Milat, obviously, how do you feel things are going to go forward? Will there be room for the Awami League to sort of reconcile? We've seen, obviously, I talked about Jamaat, who's being refreshed about its history today. Can the Awami League find room to maneuver in that? Will there be a sort of a change or reform within the Awami League itself? Like, what is the future looking like?
First of all, I'm hopeful about the progress of Bangladesh, because the Bangladeshi people who has done a great liberation wherein 55 years ago, and they have won the liberation war at that time against Pakistanis and local collaborators like Jamaatis, Al-Sams, Al-Badr, Al-Rajakars. But that's although the history, but we want that 3 million people has died. So we need to get the declaration for that genocide has happened at that time. Coming to the current politics, we want women participation, no doubt about that. We want young leaders should come forward, no doubt about that. But what we want is, we want participatory, leaving 40 to 50% population outside the process. It cannot be a proper democracy. So Bangladesh Awami League, whether they will do reform or not, they will decide. Bangladesh Awami League, not me or not any person. But I think, of course, it's a reform is a process, and they will be going through the process. If anybody commit any crimes, they should be punished according to the rule of law. But it doesn't mean that they have to be kept into the prison, or they have to leave the country because of political vengeance. That is the main problem at the moment. The nation is divided into two. One is pro-liberation, one is anti-liberation. And the way the religious extremism is rising at the moment in the country is really concerned, because the women, they will not allow more than 50% population of in Bangladesh is women. 50%. They are not getting equal share of their right in education, in sports sector, in jobs, in anywhere. So they should they should come forward, and we need equal share for everybody, every citizen in Bangladesh. I'm hopeful everything will be settled if it is participatory. Especially Bangladesh Awami League is a big party, no doubt about that. Bangladesh National Party is a big party, no doubt about that. The two biggest party in the country, leaving one party behind. I think proper democracy, proper secularism, and rule of law cannot be established in Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Dr. Malat. Well, I think my hope is, obviously we know there's been quite a lot of mass arbitrary arrests. Unfortunately, the sort of a continuation of Bangladesh's politics. I've got friends. There's the children's writer and author and activist on human rights, Sharia Kabir, and others. We know that, and I think that the European Union could really work hard on making sure these kinds of cases are highlighted. And when somebody who was an Amnesty International prisoner of conscience is now jailed again under Muhammad Yunus, and obviously the Tariqs inherited these cases, I'd like to see some sort of resolution on that, and for Europe to be a little bit more sort of and voice its concerns on these cases, because a man in a wheelchair, a children's author who's had distress in his life, is now being jailed because radical Islamists think he stood up against them and he's committed crimes against humanity during the monsoon uprising. I highly doubt it. The man's in a wheelchair, can barely walk. Now, this is just one individual case, but there are thousands of cases like this still in Bangladesh. So yes, there's been a great participatory democracy, but is the problem still there that Bangladesh doesn't have a good civic society where people can grow as a nation, or even in the case of what we've seen with Jamaat-e-Islami, where people are forgiven for horrific things that have happened in the past? Should there be a truth and reconciliation in Bangladesh? Because I think it desperately needs it. Its politics has been dysfunctional in everybody. And I'm going to steal a quote from Shakespeare, It's like a plague on everybody's house in Bangladesh. Now there's not a single party in that country that doesn't have some form of badness or blood on their hands. And that's just unfortunately what Bangladesh's politics has been. So hopefully we need to take the positives, and I think that's why on the economy and we can drive it forward, and hopefully Tariq Rahman does have a bad history. You just have to look at the WikiLeaks sort of reveals, and what he was banned from going to the United States because of massive corruption and nepotism and violence. But he seems to have reformed. So is that the lesson that people need to that people can change? Things can change. People who've done horrendous things can reform. Is that the message that we need to help them to sort of nudge them towards? I don't know. Or is that just meddling in Bangladesh's politics? And there's partly one of the concerns that many have. So thank you everyone for joining today's discussion. I think it's been really worthwhile. And there is a lot of hope out there. And I think your summaries of being election observers has been really positive. And I think Bangladesh can succeed. It's the former Secretary General of the UN once called it the little engine that could, and it does. It keeps on rolling along. It has, like, if we had a flood like Bangladesh has in the United Kingdom, the country would grind to a halt for 6 months. Bangladesh just gets over it. There's a lot of resilience there. So I think we need to leave on a message of hope, and that we are friends. Sometimes we may be critics of Bangladesh. We may criticize, but it's for the good of everyone. And I love that we have these living bridges with Bangladesh around Europe and in Southeast Asia. So thank you everybody for joining. I think we're going to have a little video on the end to conclude. But thank you for joining us, and thank you those that have listened in. And sorry for the technical issues that we've had. I think it's been a great discussion.
Thank you.